Good evening. I now call the Winton Woods Board of Education regular meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. on Monday, May 18th. Please turn all your electronic devices to silent, please, and then please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Seymour, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Burns?
Here.
Mr. Pennicuff?
Present.
Mr. Clary?
Here.
Dr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Miranda?
Present. Our first item on the agenda this evening is our district honors, recognitions, gifts, and introductions. Mr. Superintendent, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Madam President and Board, did you guys notice how the room just got quiet automatically at 6:30? Boy, wouldn't that be great if that happened in real life, like all the time? All right. The first Kiwanis character is key goes to Chesney Day. Wow. There's go no.
We got a 20-minute speech to give.
Yes. There's going to be a very important word that I'm going to use when I describe Chesney. Chesney Day is the Winton Woods Elementary School recipient for the Perseverance Award. Wow. That means you do everything you say you're going to do. Is that true?
Yes.
All right. She is a great student. She is always positive and kind to her classmates. She deserves this Perseverance Award because she truly never gives up. She embodies that warrior spirit. She always gives 100% and is not afraid to ask when she doesn't understand. She works hard to consistently improve academically. Wow. She is part of the National Honor Society, Recycling Club, and is always willing to be a help wherever needed. Chesney Day. Anything you want to say? Yes. All right. We already get a picture?
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. Perseverance. Ms. Day. Where is the parent of this beautiful child?
Behind the camera.
Absolutely. Thank you, parents, for sending her to Winton Woods, and thank you for teaching her perseverance. All right? Thank you. All right. The next recipient is Zoe Keller. All right. Zoe will come in shortly, I'm sure. Student of the Month Award. I'll read a little bit about Zoe. Zoe Keller is being recommended for the May Kiwanis Student of the Month Award because of her ambition. I've worked with Zoe every month since second semester beginning, and she is truly on top of goals and responsibilities both in and out of school. Zoe plans to begin taking college-level courses next year during 11th grade at the University of Cincinnati. She is eager to begin and has a strong interest in becoming a physicist. Wow. In working with her, we have planned on several opportunities for her future. By the time she finishes high school, she plans to have taken all science courses offered. All science courses. How many of you meet that requirement? Okay. Zoe is determined, hardworking, who will go far with her future endeavors. Because of her motivation and good work ethics, she not only resembles the warrior way, but her well-developed skills have spread onto others. Students have asked her questions. She always has answers for them, providing good information, which in turn motivates the students to want to do more and reach their own goals. And that's for Christina Jaranek, and that's our Zoe Keller. Every year, the National Assessment of Educational Progress comes in to various schools to test them to see if they meet the national standards. Very rigorous process. And I would like to recognize our very own Miss Harrison Fowler. Can you come up to the mic, please? This is first of all, it's very, very hard to get this recognition. And what they said was, Miss Harrison Fowler has received this recommendation because of how well she cooperated with the NAEP study, how efficient she was getting the students prepared, and how diligent she was of making sure that our students met all the qualifications to be assessed. This is a very rigorous assessment, and you really can't turn it down. They come and they say, we want to test your kids to see how smart they are. You can say no, but the superintendent would always say yes. Okay, so thank you for leading that charge, and I'd like for you to say a few words about your school and about how the students were prepared for that rigorous assessment.
Okay, I'm the assistant principal at the middle school, and we had to test our 8th graders for this national educational process. The state came in and said, you will test, you need to get a random selection of kids. We had to identify if they were ELL learners, if they were had a learning disability. We had to go through a whole rigorous, they gave me 25 hours worth, but I think it was more, but it was worth it just to see how well Winton City Schools educates our kids, and we did an outstanding job. I'm very surprised by this because I just call it my job every day. That's what I'm supposed to do. So it's a little weird being recognized as doing your job. So I appreciate Mr. Smith with giving me the opportunity to do this, but like I said, this is an everyday adventure for me, and I love it, and I would love to continue to do it, and our kids are awesome.
Very good. Keep in mind, there are 2 letters that come out. One might say, your staff did not cooperate with us. The other letter says they cooperated with us fully, and we intend to come back and reassess some of your children. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. The next award, this one's really hard to get and hard to sustain. There's a coordinated review effort by the Ohio Department of Education, Office of Child Nutrition. And here's a letter for Miss, it's written in response to Miss Karen Holman. Is she here tonight? Yes. Yes, right here. Okay. Dear Superintendent Smith, the Ohio Department of Education, Office of Child Nutrition, completed the coordinated review effort of Winton Woods School District. The review of the school's food authorities' compliance with federal and state regulations focused on child nutrition programs. Winton Woods Middle School and Winton Woods High Schools were selected for review. An exit conference was held on March 25th with Ms. Karen Holman, Food Service Director, at which time the critical and general areas of regulatory compliance were discussed. Here's where the applause comes in. There were no errors found in the critical areas of the CRE evaluation, and no further actions are needed. So, thank you. For every young person out there that complains about school lunch, we will do exactly what we did last time and feed you the same way that we did in the past, because Ms. Holman is on top of her work with our kids to make sure it's a well-balanced, nutritious lunch for middle school and high schoolers. How many of you have middle school and high schoolers at home? They are hard to satisfy. All right. So, Ms. Holman, a few words about your work.
Well, the CRE review is something we have every 3 years. It used to be every 5 years, and now they're doing it every 3. It is an amazing amount of work just preparing for it. Anytime that you receive any kind of federal funds, along with that comes a lot of rules and regulations. And basically, they come in and check from A to Z that we are in compliance. It's our food, our menus, our all of our paperwork, and we worked to put in a lot of hours on it this year, but very pleased that things went well. And it's really all about feeding our kids every day and taking care of them.
Thank you for your
Thank
job.
you.
Well done. Before I move on to the next, the Extra Mile Parent Award, I do have a letter regarding Ms. Harrison Fowler that she was hoping that I would not read. And so this actually comes from the Ohio NAEP administrator, and it's also sent to the governor's office for review. All right. Dear Superintendent Smith, thank you for the participation of the 8th grade students of Winton Woods Middle School in the 2015 National Assessment of Education Progress. Winton Woods Middle School students did a great job representing 8th graders in Ohio and the nation and were diligent in their efforts. I would also like to recognize the hard work of Kim Harrison Fowler, who served as school coordinator. While NAEP is administered by outside staff, Kim served a vital role in coordinating with the NAEP field staff, assisting with the student sampling process, sending a notification letter to parents of selected students, and determining administration logistics. This is an important cooperative effort in assuring the smooth and efficient administration of NAEP in addition to other important school responsibilities. Again, thank you for your Winton Woods Middle School participation in the 2015 NAEP assessment. For further information, please visit the website, Christine Kemp, Ohio NAEP Administrator. Thank you very, very much. I'm waiting for a special letter from the governor about you, so when it comes, I will read it. Okay? All right. The next award, Extra Mile Parent Award. This recipient is Miss Paula Kuhn. All right, you know where to stand. All right. Every year, Winton Woods City Schools presents the Extra Mile Parent Award. This award honors parents who have shown extraordinary dedication in serving the students of the district. This year's recipient is Mrs. Paula Kuhn. All right. Even though this is not about Mr. Kuhn, it doesn't say this, but Mr. Kuhn, there you go. All right, we have to give you some recognition in there. All right, okay. Over the years, Mrs. Kuhn has used her leadership skills in many capacities to serve our students and staff. She is the former president of the Winton Woods Community PTA, current president of the district's Performing Arts Booster, current president of the Winton Woods Educational Foundation. Last year, Mrs. Kuhn and her husband, Jim, there we go, and her husband, Jim, were the sponsors of the Superintendent Scholars Medals and Plaque. This year, they were able to enjoy the evening as participants along with their son, Superintendent Scholar Alex Kuhn. We're grateful for the many years of hard work that Mrs. Paula Kuhn has given to the district. Winton Woods City Schools is a better place because of parents like you. Thank you very, very much. All right.
This is very humbling to me. It's something that just comes natural. I enjoy the process. I enjoy our students. I encourage all of our parents to give whatever you can to our students. They're well worth it. It's more joy to me than probably what I give. So thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's not, thank you.
Mr. Kuhn, do not be distressed. From now on, you're just the husband. All right? You're the husband of, okay, all right. Fit in. Okay. Take your award out. Let us see it.
We already had it.
We already did? Okay, I'm late.
Yep.
Okay.
It's very, very hard to get out of that box.
All right. Oh, that's powerful. Thank you. Is the representative from Myers, are they here tonight? Okay, all right. The Community Spirit Award. If you know the representatives of any Myers or the Myers in our location, would you please give them a pat on the back, a hug, a handshake or something, because they have been absolutely incredible. So here's our story. For over a decade, the Fairfield Meyer has been a partner in education with Winton Woods City Schools through its support of our staff and students and its many generous donations to district programs. This month, we're thanking them publicly for presenting them with the district's Community Spirit for May. During this year alone, Meyer has donated over $2,500 in school supplies and gifts to students at Winton Woods Elementary. It also provided $1,000 in gift cards to support community engagement throughout the district. This donation has helped fund many academic events for our community, including State of the Schools address, lunch with the superintendent, curriculum night, college readiness seminars, student advisory council meetings, testing information night, and college credit plus information night. In 2012, if you saw a lot of young people riding bikes in your community, you can blame Myers. They donated 34 bikes. So, Myers has also participated in the high school jobs fair and has been an annual contributor of food and drinks for high school back-to-school functions. All of these donations show a community stakeholder who understands and actively does their part to support academic success for Winton students. Thank you very much, Meyer, for your support. Madam President, I could read these all night, but that was my last one. Oh, the art. Okay, I always save those kids for last. Is Nate Winton here? Right on time. You know, if I came in and I wasn't Nate, I would put that award on. Okay, Nate, this piece, this is the superintendent's selection. This piece captured me when I came into the room immediately. I need you just to describe it because this piece is awesome. You had to do some creative things with it, so share.
What I did is I took a picture in the woods during. What I did is I had gone into some woods behind our house during winter where there was snow on the ground, and I had taken a picture of the trees. And then in Photoshop, I had selected half the image and then flipped it, and then selected the other half horizontally and flipped it that way, so that way it creates a symmetrical effect that's
Kaleidoscope symmetrical effect. Wow. So, Nate, a little bit, what do you want to be?
I actually want to be a computer engineer.
Again,
Like a computer hardware engineer.
computer hardware engineer. Wow. Are you a driver?
No.
All right, but you did bring some people along. Who's with you?
My father and my little brother.
Okay, all right. And Dad, where does he get all this inspiration?
It's all him. It's all him.
All right.
I have no idea.
We are very, again, when I walked in and saw that piece, it just grabbed me right away. All right. So, Nate, thank you for your creativity and your focus. Why don't we let his little brother hold the picture, because that's his inspiration right there. Yes, sir. Yes, come on, Dad.
Yeah, he's hiding. There we go. Just gonna get dropped.
1, 2, 3, 1 more.
Nate, that gets to hang in my office until you graduate. When do you graduate?
Next year.
Next year. That gets to hang in my office even after you graduate.
I was gonna say you can keep it longer than that.
Okay, you heard her. You heard it publicly. All right. Thank you very, very much. That is a very creative piece. Thank you, Nate. All right. Yes, sir. Thank you very, very much. Proud of you. All right. Yes, sir. Eliana Washam. Did I pronounce it correctly? Okay. The principal selection. Whoa. No, we need to, where's Mr. Denny? All right. Okay, Mr. Jones, there you go. Mr. Jones, hold that up while she tells us about her piece. Eliana, what grade are you in? Wow. Ninth grade talent. Tell us a little bit about the piece.
Well, it was my still life. We just had to draw. We had to pick the still life that we wanted to draw. So I picked this one.
The detail is incredible. Wow. When you were in ninth grade, could you? No, I won't even comment. All right. Tell me what you are aspiring to be.
I think I want to be a biomedical engineer.
Biomedical engineer. My walls in my office are not full, so again, that piece will hang in my office as well. And you can pick it up you'll be a sophomore next year? 3 years. All right. Powerful. Another applause. Picture? Can I get a picture, Miss Murray?
She draw that with a pencil.
Again, we could not ever afford to preserve this incredible artwork without the generous donation of Emeritus, who does all of our framing for no fee. So if you see them, make sure that you give them a hug and a pat on the back for a job well done. All right, that was the principal selection. The final selection is the honorable mention, Autumn Adams. Is Autumn in the audience? Okay. Autumn, you're going to do something very creative.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Autumn, you're going to tell us a little bit about your piece, but I'd like for you guys to do something as she describes her piece. You know how your senses peak when you lose one of them? So close your eyes, everyone, and Autumn's going to tell a little bit about her piece and see if we can imagine it being here with us.
Okay, so we first got 2 toy animals, and we had to pick, and they were both, there's an adult one and then there was a baby one, and then there were toy animals, so they were like right in front of us, and we had to draw them, and we had to put them in a piece where they were real life. So we had to make them look real life and then put them in the backdrop of where we think they should live. So mine were elephants, African elephants, and our media that we had to use were markers. So you can see how hard getting the different shades and tones and value in it to try to make it real. So we had to put them in the landscape. So I did the savannah, and I had it was a sunrise horizon.
Wow. I feel like I'm there. Okay. What are you aspiring to be?
A veterinarian.
Veterinarian. Wow. And Miss Adams, how many more years do we have to have you with us?
None.
You're graduating?
Yes.
Ah. Okay. All right. And you wouldn't even consider staying one more, would you?
Oh, heck no.
Okay. Okay. Spoken for as a true senior. All right. Thank you very, very much. Very proud. We hope to get that piece some way online so you guys can see it. But with your eyes closed, you can imagine the elephants and how she made it come to life. Very proud of you. Thank you. All right. Our final selection is the honorable mention selection for Sydney Reed. Sydney says, none of those eye closed moments for me. I have my piece with me. I just kept taking pictures of this, sending it to people all over the place. So Sydney, describe it.
Well, one of my assignments was to draw a self-portrait, but I wanted to be more creative with it, so I chose animals I found captivating and morphed them into my own features.
Wow.
Nice.
Man. Does the S on there with the heart stand for Smith?
It stands for Smith.
Okay, all right, just checking. All right. Okay, So, how many more years do we have you?
I graduate this Thursday.
All right, congratulations. Hold the piece up so everybody can see it on this side. It just grabs you. Okay, Miss Miranda, Photoshop. That concludes. All right, thank you. Thank you for bringing that piece. Thank you, board. Thank you, district representatives and everyone in the audience.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith. Okay, we will now take a 5-minute recess. Folks, we're going to reconvene. Welcome back. We have one more recognition that we need to do before we move on. So, Mr. Superintendent, you have the floor.
Yes. Ms. Conway?
Is this not in here?
Ms. Conway was recognized last Friday, and she was recognized as being one of the top educators in our region. Of all the schools, every school district was able to pick their top person, and for a variety of reasons, Ms. Conway Smith, or Smith Conway?
Smith Conway.
Smith Conway. We have to get the Smith in there. Ms. Smith Conway was selected unanimously. We had a special day where we recognized her, took her a bouquet of flowers. Her children participated in the celebration. And what I would like for you to do is to say a little bit about your students, about what you do for Winton Woods, and why that award was so special.
Okay. I teach 5th and 6th grade gifted at the intermediate school, and I teach English language arts. This is my 2nd year in the district, and so obviously Mr. Smith can attest to this. I was quite surprised when he showed up at my classroom door with a bouquet of flowers to tell me that I had been chosen for this award. It was very exciting. We've had a really great year at the intermediate school. This year I was able to get 30 tablets from a Donors Choose project for my students that we're using in the classroom this year, and we hope to get more. We've been working on grants and things like that to do a new innovative social justice curriculum with the 6th graders at the intermediate school. So it's been a great year, and I am so pleased to be a teacher at Winton Woods, and I can't wait to see the great things that we have in store in the future.
While Miss Smith Conway was doing her photo op with our resident photographer, I asked a few students questions. Tell me about your teacher. And they were giving me words like fair, hard worker, honest. And they mentioned something that was very, very near and dear. They said, we love her because she loves us. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right? Yes. Yes.
You know, just an applause does not seem adequate. I just want to say I'm really glad you're here. You're having an impact on the lives of our students and on the families here in our community. So I'm glad that you chose Winton Woods to practice your craft.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to public comments. First person up, Joy Sutherland.
Madam President, I'd be happy to watch the time for you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Hello.
Good evening.
How are you? Yes, hi. I didn't know I was speaking this evening. Well, anyway, I'm going to call a question. I want to know, our public comments, we have a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood here with very gifted children. And I want to know, what are we as Winton Woods administration doing to recruit gifted and talented teachers to our area to bring them in and keep them in? We have some gifted administrators here as far as principals going, As one, we know I just found out we're moving him out of his position at the elementary. I hope we can keep him one more year there because my daughter has one more year. So I hope we can keep him there, but I would like to know from you all, what are you doing to recruit gifted and talented? Because as a parent and a resident here of Winton Forest Park, I'm trying to recruit gifted and talented residents to take up our empty houses we have here. So I want to know, what are you doing to recruit gifted and talented people, teachers? Thank you.
Okay, next we have Mrs. Prater.
Any?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you like to comment? Go ahead, Superintendent.
Well, there are several great pieces, and thank you for your comment, because I love to have gifted and talented people around me, and that's what we try to pride ourselves in. Having the music program, having the accelerated program, having the opportunity for young people to grow beyond their wildest imagination is part of our gifted and talented search. Our Human Resource Director, Ms. Wilson, are you here? She's always trying to figure out what separates you as an employee from a regular person. Our students don't necessarily need a regular, sometimes they need a superstar. And so we're really trying to reach out to get superstars in our district. There's one bad part of it, the salary ranges vary because everybody wants that superstar. So we have to be able to say that not only do we have a position for you, we're able to compete with you against other districts for your talent. That will keep gifted and talented students in our district. If you ever had the opportunity to see the superintendent state of the schools, we use this bell-shaped curve where students who struggle, students who are in the middle, and students who are talented and gifted well beyond our imagination. The objective is for everybody to move to the right, the gifted and talented students as well. So keep on the search with us. If you find gifted and talented people that we can interview for opportunities in our district, we welcome to have you on our team. Thank you very much. Yes, you can.
As far as recruiting our gifted and talented teachers, can we take the equation of money out of it and say, I know right now, because of the economic status we are here in the United States,
Yes.
can we get you for 5 years on a goodwill gesture, even though we can't compete with the money, but what we can compete is our children to be successful, for when you retire, they will be there to make sure you are.
I will definitely use that as our selling point. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Prater.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
President Jessica Miranda and remaining board members and Mr. Smith, as well as my neighbors and administrators and teachers. I come before you today because there have been first of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Smith, for answering her question and responding on the spot. I do think that that would be a wonderful concept to use when we address the public if we have questions or concerns. One of the concerns or questions that I had was, of course, when we're talking about buildings, I see and I personally witness the condition of the buildings. And my question is, have we been hit with an issue of them being unsafe as far as the health department goes, number one. And number two, I know that even if a bond was approved, that wouldn't be a fast fix to that. And I'm wondering when it comes to the compensation of all the budget is and all that's involved with the budget, to bring the buildings up to a standard where they are safe and healthy, is it such that have we looked at the budget where perhaps we can cut some of the administrative costs or whatever? Because I know there are districts very similar to ours that is not as administrative heavy, if you will. That's my question, and that's my comment, and thank you.
Very much.
Okay, Mr. John Stone.
My name is John Stone. I moved to the district about 6 years ago. I was impressed when the levy, actually that was put on the ballot about maybe, what was it, 4 years ago? It didn't pass the first time, but it passed the second time. My son is a preschooler. He just started. He's 4. And yeah, I'm concerned with the strategy with passing this bond. One of the things in this classroom, I think, is a TV that looked like it was made maybe in the 80s. And it's pretty disappointing to see the illegal yard signs that were sitting, especially in my neighborhood, that whatever organization, shadowy organization it is allowed to do that. And there wasn't much of a campaign to pass the levy other than a word of mouth, which is not really going to get people out in an off year, an off election, May election. So my kids will be in this district. I have a daughter, she's 19 months old. We have a house here in the district. So they will probably most likely utilize these schools. I just joined the PTA, so with the preschool. So I'm concerned about our future, our children, even if I didn't have any children in this district, or children at all. But what is being done to pass the bond that we so badly need, so badly. Even my old district, West Claremont, is getting a TIF grant. Growing up in Amelia, we could never pass levies. And they are combining their schools because they're getting a TIF grant from the state. That's a question. If that has been looked into, if a district that cannot pass a levy to save their lives, and I know this district can. This is a good district, it's good people here, and I'm proud to live here. And so I guess that is my question about the bond. I want to see our kids have the best. They deserve it, even if they weren't mine. But living in this district is an honor for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stone. J. Michael Wagner.
First of all, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I taught in the local school district, public school, for 36 years. And I campaigned for school levies, got signs in my front yard. My daughter, who teaches in a public school, has done the same thing, campaign. So you could see how much it pained me to vote against this past levy. One thing I believe that most people, most taxpayers, do not understand is the difference between a bond issue and an operating levy. You cannot take money out of the bond issue to operate your schools. And so people see an issue like the past one, and if they vote it and pass it, in a couple of years you need money to operate. And then they go back to the voters, and the voters say, wait a minute, we just voted that money for schools. They don't understand that they voted for a building. And you can't raise scores with a big building, new building. You got to pass operating levies. You got to get that money first. Then you get the scores up. Then you can build nice buildings. They're not the same. And I don't think taxpayers, in fact, I'm afraid that many teachers do not understand that, and maybe some board members don't understand. You can't pass building levies, bond issues, and take that money to operate. So we talked about the problems of safety and things like that. Pass an operating levy and correct that. Get the scores up. Mentioned something about bad televisions. Get an operating levy, get a new television. But you can't get that with with a bond issue. So that's my point. I hope in the future I can vote for operating levies because I think probably we need it. But I don't think right now we need a new bond issue. I don't think we need new buildings. We need to get the scores up. That's what operating.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mark Plageman?
Yes, I'm a 49-year resident of Forest Park, retired college professor from Miami University. And the question I want to ask is, what reason do you think that the bond issue went down with such a resounding defeat, such an embarrassing defeat? Someone talked about the campaign. Last year in Forest Park, we were inundated with signs of all-out emphasis to go. This year, you didn't see a sign, only in Green Hills for the most part, okay? So why did it go down to such a huge defeat, and what are the plans that are in the coming up which will improve the quality of the education? A new school does not make better students. I can cite many, many examples where that's not the case. So what is being done, what plans are, how will they be distributed? We don't have a newspaper, we don't have a newsletter. It was like that question of a couple years ago of aggregation. It was on the 4th page of the ballot, and if you'd asked 10 people walking down the street what aggregation was, they wouldn't have a clue. So there wasn't any publicity out of what it was. It was a no-brainer, okay? So the question is, how can we improve the academic quality of the district without building new schools? That's all I have to say.
Mr. or Mrs. Betty Baker?
From Green Hills. I wish to tag on to the last remarks about the buildings versus the scores and our grades. I believe that the grades that are published in the paper carry a lot of weight. It says that we are failing in many areas. And I hadn't planned to bring up the buildings, but in my mind has been. There are so many examples we can give of brilliant people that were educated in buildings that were considered unusable. And I'm not saying we should be there, but I'm saying first, we need to look at the product that we're producing and the publicity that goes with it. That concerns me. You've had all these wonderful examples tonight. I've enjoyed this immensely. And every day on my corner down there in Green Hills, I see these delightful children waiting for their buses. And they're all excited. Then I go up to the shopping center in the afternoon, and I see these young adults that don't make me very excited. And somewhere in that, we're failing. Not just the schools, it's society. And it breaks my heart. I could never sleep at night if I had voted against a school issue. I wanted to, in a way, because when I go to the meetings, and when I went to the few, all I heard was how terrible everything was in our buildings. How terrible everything was. I wanted to hear how wonderful the things were. And what the terrible things were the physical plant. So we need to emphasize the positives we've got. Kind of reminded me of baking a cake. If you put the least little thing in there a little off, your cake doesn't come out right. You can have all those ingredients out there, and if you don't get the measure just right, your product doesn't come out right. And so, this society we're baking, oh, he told me 20 minutes. This society we're baking, somewhere we're not getting the ingredients right. I don't know what it is, because you have a wonderful school, you've got this staff, and you heard this young man that loves the community and wants to stay here. And I got all kinds of things I could tell you that the neighbors tell me, good and bad. I've got reflections if you're interested in them. But we have got to get the recipe right.
Thank you, Mrs. Baker.
Brandon Weirs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board and members of the audience. I have prepared some remarks, but I'm going to start with an observation for which there's no denial. Every coin has two sides. It would be an extrapolation and maybe not a true statement to say every room has an elephant. We saw a very pleasant side of the coin, but there is a side of it that isn't quite so pleasant. And it's been brought up, and I'm going to piggyback on some previous remarks. It has to do with the outcome of the last bond issue. 2 weeks ago tomorrow, on May 5th, 2015, a majority of Forest Park Board voters joined voter majorities in Green Hills, Springfield Township, and Wyoming in opposing the bond issue. This was the one the board majority chose to put on the ballot in a vote taken last December. The result of the last bond issue differed from the November 2014 bond issue in that respect. Forest Park was the only one of the four communities that favored it in November 2014. It now ceased to favor it. It became clear then the opposition to that bond levy formulation, bond issue formulation, that opposition is unanimous among the communities. Now, a signal that this was going to happen could have been discerned in examining the Winton Woods enrollment data that were compiled in the period of July to September of 2014. According to records available to the public upon request, 263 students who live in the Winton Woods district transferred out to other public schools in that period, in that time period. Very short period of time prior to start of this year's academic enrollment year. This significantly exceeds the 233 students whose parents over the preceding years had already elected to enroll their children in another school district, namely the Hamilton County Math and Science Academy. 233 over a series of years had accumulated that many enrollment, that much enrollment, still continuing to receive their education there. Now, if you add those two together, the figure 496 is actually a low estimate of the brains that have been drained from our district, because other public schools don't supply the same data that you get from charter schools. So 496 potential Winton Woods students are going elsewhere, minimum. Now this says to me that although the students themselves are too young to vote, their parents have been voting and are continuing to vote with their feet to leave the district. My suggestion to the board majority, I must say, those that chose to place that bond issue on the ballot, and the administration together should stop looking out the window, blaming others, and start looking in the mirror. There is a message in how citizens and parents of students are voting that due diligence can discover. It will take more of your time and will require systemic change to get there, but there are people, my colleagues and I, among others, such as residents of Green Hills and Springfield Township. I don't know about Wyoming. I haven't canvassed that municipality thoroughly. But they and I, my colleagues and I, would be happy to partner with you along the way. Thank you.
Katrina Ruglis.
Good evening. Good evening, board, Mr. Smith, Mr. Seymour, community. I was debating whether or not to speak. I've been quiet for quite some time, and I think many of you know that I am very vocal. But after I was sitting back and contemplating whether or not I wanted to stand before the community and speak, I was reminded of a couple stories that are guiding principles for me, both professionally as well as in the community and the work that I do. Some of you may be aware of a story of an African warrior that came back to the village, and he asked a question to the elders. He said, "How are the children?" And their answer was, "The children are fine. They're well." So I asked the question to the board, to the community, how are the children? Now this warrior asked the question not because he wanted to know about the physical health of the children, but he really wanted to know about the health of the children and actually about the vitality of the community and how well they were positioned for progress for the future generations. So today, I sit in front of our community and I say we are divided more than I've ever seen. We sit at a crossroad where we have to decide, are we going to continue with the us against them, or are we going to get down to work and find collective strategies to move us forward? I resonate with everybody who had a comment tonight. I resonate with you. I think your name was John. I love the fact that you have passion for this community. You're looking out for the children. One of the things that I can say that makes me very proud is that everyone in this room, well, I believe mostly everyone in this room have the children's best interest at heart. We have to keep that in mind. The nastiness, the things that work against progress must stop now. We have to make a decision how we're going to move forward. And that means all stakeholders. We all have a stake in making sure that this district moves forward. One thing that I have noticed, in the middle of the sign wars, we have another sign that's starting to pop up over all of our communities, and those are for sale. For sale signs. We need to start listening to the sirens that are going up and down our streets. Now, one thing that I can say, when you look at our community, or you look at a thriving community, you will say that the children are well. You will see a community that decides to put the children first because they have a vested interest in their future. I ask everyone, board, Mr. Smith, community, businesses, ask yourself, how are the children? Because they're caught up in the middle of all of these issues, these adult issues. So I ask that one day, actually I'm very hopeful, that one day we will all be able to say the children are well. Thank you.
Charlie Adams.
Just as a matter of process, Madam President, this occurs at the beginning of the meeting. It just doesn't continue.
Right. That's my bad. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to get in trouble by my 7th grader who sent me in here with the letter. I have 3 buildings represented here. I have Primary South, Elementary, and then my daughter, who is a 7th grader in the middle school. And I'm just going to read what she sent me in here to say. She said, her name is Star Adams. She's a straight A student. She's a student council. She was the lead part in Mass Ability and Into the Woods, and received a really, really great award that was supposed to be for 8th graders, but they gave it to her. She loves her school. So she said, us students feel that we need new schools for multiple reasons. I know this because we talk about it all the time. Our schools are old and falling apart. The bathroom stalls and sinks are all old and broken from years and years of use. In the girls' bathroom, the roof fell in, and it still has not been fixed. And it would be nice to actually have a classroom for orchestra. Since we have no classroom, we have to practice in the auditorium. And during the winter, it is freezing since we have no heating system. We deserve these things, and our performance at the Loveland competition this past weekend proves it. I don't know if you all know, but Winton Woods won first place for everything. Yeah. Band, orchestra, choir, they won first and second place for choir. 8th grade and 7th grade. We all work hard and finish strong during the school year, and you let a couple of students represent our whole entire district. Most of your children aren't even in this district since you moved them, and you still vote no. Maybe for once, you should think about the students in the school instead of yourselves. Thank you. Wow.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your comments this evening. We will now move to the next item on our agenda.
Madam President, may I?
Yes, Mrs. Burns.
I want to make sure that those of you who got up to speak recognize that though we were moving through the agenda, you were heard. Every one of you was heard. I know I'm feverishly taking notes, as is Jessica and some others. Our job is to represent the community. That's pretty much what you put us in here for. And we must keep the children's best interest at heart. Katrina, I couldn't have said it better. If we don't keep the interest of the children at the forefront, we'll get tangled in our own stuff. So I just want to take the time to just let people know, whether you're for it or against it, you were heard.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board before we move on?
Yes.
Mr. Cleary?
While everybody's feelings are their feelings, there are teaching staff that are here, and the union president's here, and some administrators are here, and I want to say that I know you didn't take your eye off the ball. I know our students are number one, and you didn't care what the sign said or where the sign was posted. I don't want you to be discouraged. I want you to be encouraged, because I know you're doing the right thing, and there's evidence out there that exists that proves you're doing the right thing. We're seeing ACT, SAT scores increase. We know that rigor has changed. We're winning more awards at the state level and the national level. We're doing all the right things. Slow progress, and we're doing it in older buildings. We're not doing it in newer buildings. That's a whole other issue. You know, Dr. Weirs, I don't think that there's a blame game going on. I don't believe that there is. I think, Katrina, I think we're positioned towards progress. I think there's evidence that exists. You know, our superintendent spoke a week ago and has showed the last 2 years of our academic progress. While it was a very long presentation, it was very thorough. The evidence is there. Is it where we want it to be? Absolutely not. And we're doing that in our existing buildings. I could kind of just keep going down, you know, Betty, you know, buildings versus scores. Our job is the scores. Buildings will come, or progress will come in that area, but scores are our number one priority. You know, Professor Stone, we're gonna get back. We're gonna get back to where we were in the past. We're working towards that, and this isn't happy talk. This is the evidence points towards it. The data points towards it. It's not a quick turnaround. It isn't. Parents that are really engaged with their children are going to be very, very, very successful in our district. I'm not saying that because it's a blame game. I'm saying that there is great opportunity here if you choose to be vested in the system. If you don't, there's going to still be success, but our teachers are going to have to work 10 times harder. Mrs. Prater, you know, safety. Safety is our number one, the most important thing to us. Our buildings are safe. We have continued to invest in safety. The letter from the young lady where the ceiling tiles had come down in the bathroom. It sounds egregious that the ceiling's falling down. It's some ceiling tiles, but it still makes complete sense. A child shouldn't have to go into the bathroom and wonder what's up there because they can't see it. I could keep going. I could keep going on and on to everybody's comments, but I want to say, at least from my perspective, and you may or may not agree. I see heads shaking out there. No way. Our teachers are working their butts off. Our teachers are doing everything they can do to assure the success of our students, and the success is occurring. Is it occurring with everyone? No. Unfortunately, will not. It isn't. I think the bond will probably be back. But a bond levy or bond combination, it's not really run by one person. It's run by you. It's run by the community. The people that work their butts off weren't necessarily the community. Some did. This is up to the community. If you want buildings, then you got to drive buildings. If you don't want buildings, you have to send a clear message. We have old, aged buildings with infrastructure that's declining. With the internal infrastructure, something has to be done there. I'm sorry, my 3 minutes are up.
Needed to be said, thanks.
Yes.
Okay. In the effort of keeping on our time schedule here, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes as attached. Board, unless you see any corrections or changes to these minutes, a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I move that the minutes from April 27th regular meeting and April 29th special meeting be approved as noted.
Second.
A motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, board members? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicott?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson? Aye. Mrs. Miranda.
Aye. Vote passes unanimously. Our next item on the agenda is our treasurer's report. We turn to you, Mr. Seymour. You have the floor.
Just in the interest of being expeditious and efficient, there's really nothing new to report in the area of finance except we continue to try to monitor and stay under budget by about 4% still.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Board, are there any questions or discussion on this topic? With no objections being heard, let the financial report for the month of April be submitted to audit. Next item, Mr. Seymour, treasurer's recommendations.
And as for our interest income for the month, we had $18 million invested and earned $3,641 for the month.
Board, a motion would be in order.
And President, I move that the board approves the statement of investments for April 2015.
I'll second.
A motion has been moved and seconded. Board, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, please call the vote.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennycuff?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Vote passes unanimously. Mr. Seymour, 7.02.
Before you, board, you have the fees that we are recommending to be adopted for the next school year. We reviewed them at work session, and we've taken a couple months to review them and discuss them, and this is the recommendation of the administration for fees for the upcoming school year.
Madam President, I move to approve the student fees for the 2015-16 year as presented.
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. Board, is there any discussion on 7.02? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, please call the roll.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennycuff?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Vote passes unanimously. We now move on to our reports from the superintendent.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Smith, you
President.
have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. There are various upcoming events in our schools for this last few weeks of school. And even if you don't have students in our district, even if you don't have students in our schools, we ask that you really, really work to try to support some of these endeavors, especially the May 21st graduation. If we could get the entire community to come to the Cintas Center, I think we can fit inside. And I think our students would really, really appreciate a round of applause for a hard-working year. If you notice the ribbons out front, those are symbolic ribbons that says that these are the students that will be the future of this community. So there are a variety of events, but please keep that in mind. Every school has events that are occurring this last few months, and please remember, our students will be off for the summer, but I think this motivates them to come back for the fall, especially the way we close school. We should open it as rigorous as we did to close it. So that's my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith. We'll move on to 8.02.
Dr. Holden, would you join me, please? We have made some valiant attempts to get the Student Achievement Committee involved in the selection of the textbooks, the board, and anybody who has interest. Keep in mind, we are the educators that understand how curriculum is formed and developed and designed, but your input would be greatly appreciated. So if there are any questions or conversation that need to be held at this time, Dr. Holden is prepared to answer as it relates to textbook adoptions.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Holden,
Yes, sir.
before our meeting, I actually went out and looked at what the board policies were for vetting textbooks, and I want to say I'm really impressed at how rigorous it is, and that you're following a method very similar to that. If not, it's the same method.
Right.
So thank you for doing that. And board, if you haven't done that, because one of them's kind of hidden, it's in the form side,
Yes.
so you wouldn't know it was there unless you hit both. But
I just want to mention that the books for first read tonight are high school English text. That we're replacing our text for grades 9, 10, 11 that have a copyright of 2001. So those texts, which we will be purchasing an e-text and print bundle, those plus all of the text that I brought to the board last month as well as any text we have, are always available for review by the public. So just contact the board office, and I will see to it that those materials are made available for review.
Madam President, there are too many new textbooks being offered for consideration. So with consent of the board, I will make a motion that all of that list that you provided to us a month ago and all the books that have been available for our review over the past month be adopted.
That's 9.05, Mr. Pennycuff.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't.
Yes,
couldn't wait.
8.02 is a first read,
Yeah.
so we'll get to that in just a second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Holden. Thank you for making yourself available to answer any questions. Okay. Superintendent, we will now move on to your recommendations, starting with 9.01.
Yes, to approve personnel schedules as presented, Schedule A, resignations and retirements, Schedule B, certificated employment, Schedule C, support staff, and finally Schedule D, extra duty and supplemental employment. The recommendation is to approve the personnel schedules as presented.
Madam President, I move that we adopt Schedule A, B, C, and D of the superintendent's personnel schedules.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Board, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Sure. Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuff?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Superintendent, we move to 9.02.
Yes, Madam President. Recommendations to approve the exempt employee salary schedule effective July 1st, 2015, and the step placement for all exempt employees effective July 1st, 2015.
Board, a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I move to approve the salary schedule as presented.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Board, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuff?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We now move to 9.03.
Madam President and Board, the recommendation is to approve the certified administrative salary schedule, classified administrative salary schedule, and the placement for administrators as presented, 9.03.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Board, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour.
Sure. Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuff?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Abstain.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Vote passes unanimously. Mr. Superintendent, 9.04.
Lost my spot here. Oh, sorry. The job description for the ASA school assignment. Before I bring this for a vote to the board, one of the things that I would like to say is I appreciate the diligence of the teachers in this particular observation. There are times where our students may misbehave or may get themselves in conflict, and it doesn't necessarily require a suspension or a removal from school. Sometimes it requires a timeout. And the timeout can be a reflection where they get a chance to deal with their issue, because many times the issues are not about the school, it's about other things. As you heard one of the people that came up to the podium, the social ills of society creep into our buildings every day, and those affect our students. So in ASA, other ASA monitors, it stops the distraction, but it does not stop the teacher from teaching. So these ASA monitors are very, very important to the district, because it gives our child a chance to reflect, have a timeout, and possibly return back to the classroom with the notion of being educated as opposed to creating a distraction. So that's the purpose of the ASA monitors.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith.
Yes.
Board, a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I move to adopt the job description for ASA monitor as presented.
Second. It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion?
One question, Mr. Smith, with the job description that you've placed before, is this a new position or is this a
Clarification of an existing position.
That's where I was going.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. Clarification of an existing position. All right. Everybody has to kind of step up. We talk about this improvement to quality. The improvement to quality is just not the teaching staff, it's the students, it's the community, it's the parents, it's everybody that involves themselves with our job. So it can't just be some job that you can do in your sleep. There has to be some very rigorous components to it in order to manage this business called education. So this is a step up to quality, Madam Vice President.
Thank you.
One question I have, where does this place on the salary schedule? Is it already on the salary schedule?
It already exists. Yes.
Board, any other discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Sure. Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Vote passes unanimously. We now move to 9.05, Mr. Pennicuick and Superintendent Smith.
Yes, to approve the textbook adoption as presented.
The
Board of
reason I
motion.
jumped the gun a minute ago, I'm excited about these new texts. I spent some time mostly with the arts book, and if you haven't seen the arts book yet, bring a friend and the two of you can lift it. It is huge, it's heavy. It sort of cries out for when will more textbooks be online, computer-based CDs or whatever.
Yes.
It's a gorgeous book, but it is really heavy. So with that having said, with the consent of the board, I move the adoption of all of that long list of textbooks that Dr. Holden presented to us previously.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We now move to 9.06, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, Madam President, in order to remain in compliance, the following lunch price increase for school year 2015-2016 is proposed, and every one of these prices would be an increase of 10 cents. So in the elementary, from $2.25 to $2.35 is the proposed price. Middle school, high school, $2.80 to $2.90, and the high school deli price would move from $3 to $3.10. This would result in a weighted lunch average of $2.60 for our school system.
Board, a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2015-16 school lunch price increase as presented.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We now move to 9.07.
These are all second reads, Madam President and Board, so the superintendent's recommendation is to approve the new and revised board policies as presented. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, including the one that our students are eagerly waiting for, the physical education waiver policy. They're camping out at my door, Madam President.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to make sure the parents of young children in the audience know what is about to happen here. About 15 of those policies are very routine things that state law says we have to have a policy that says such and such. But there is a policy that we're voting on here in a minute that it's a choice, and it's a choice your board is going to take, and that is it will grant you as parents of children under, let's say, under sophomore age in high school, the option for a waiver for physical education in high school if they are in interscholastic sports, marching band,
Cheerleading.
drill team. Have I covered them all?
Cheerleading.
Cheerleading, thank you. In any of those for 2 full seasons in those activities, those are deemed to be enough physical activity, so to speak, to meet the physical ed requirement. And this is an issue that many parents and students have wrestled with. They take physical ed in the summer to either to get it out of the way or to create scheduling flexibility because they want to take lots of stuff in high school, particularly fine arts and the sciences and so forth. So this will go into effect for next year. So if you have the parent of a freshman or whatever or younger, your child can get this waiver. Now they will have to take an additional half credit of something else because you still need 22 credits to graduate. It just waives you if this passes, and I believe it will. This just waives the requirement to take phys ed. Thank you.
Good point.
Thank you, Mr. Pennicuff. Any other discussion?
This also gives the student the opportunity to take more rigorous courses because phys ed would not be the obstacle. It would be creating another opportunity.
I think also, just to add to that, it's not just that they start the sport, they have to finish the sport. I think it's 2 years, but they say if a student starts a sport and quits in the middle of the season, that doesn't count. So it has to be, I think it was 90% of the sport has to be completed. So that's something worth noting.
Good point, Doctor. There's a bit of fine print that goes
Yes,
with it.
there is a bit of fine print.
The concept is
Yes,
the
the
waiver
concept, yes,
for
that's right.
equivalent activity to open up doors for taking other academic classes.
Yes.
I just thought I would point that out because sometimes somebody might say, well, I'm going to start, whatever, basketball, or I'm going to start and then I play 2 games and then quit. Well, I was in the sport, or, so I thought it was worth noting.
In addition to that, Dr. Johnson, you do not have to be a starter.
No.
You don't have to be the star. You can practice and never play a game and participate all year, and the waiver would be granted based on you completing the entire season.
Yes.
So it has nothing to do with all of the skills. We just would like to have more of our students involved in activities.
Okay. Seeing no more discussion, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Sure. Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuff?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. The vote passes unanimously. Mr. Superintendent, your last one, 9.08.
Madam President of the Board, the document that was sent by the OHSA is extremely, it's been enhanced like 18,000 times, so it is very difficult to read. But it only suggests that we are still part of the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and the superintendent does not see any reason for us to be out of the association, but that's what helps create opportunities for college. It also creates opportunities to get through the NCAA clearinghouse. So that is the recommendation. I could really work really diligently to try to read it, but I would probably not be able to catch all of the fine print that goes along with it. It is just our agreement.
Board, a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I move that we renew our membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association for the coming school year.
Second.
You know what?
Motions.
Sorry. There is a clause that I think I can read.
Okay.
All right. It says, notwithstanding the foregoing, the board does reserve the right to raise the student athletic eligibility standards as the board deems appropriate for the schools and students under its jurisdiction. So it is there, and the board has already done that. Yes, thank you. I did find something.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion, Board? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuff?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next we will hear from Mr. Pennicuff regarding the legislative report. Mr. Pennicuff, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. As is typical this time of year, every other year. The budget in Columbus is going through its torturous process through the House and the Senate and the legislature. I think you got a pretty good update last week from the superintendent on the current state of play. I just wanted to, you remember last month I read to you an item that I referred to as a bit of whimsy, that a certain bill pertained only to schools that are adjacent to a athletic hall of fame. This month's equivalent to that sort of gamesmanship on the part of our elected representatives. There is a bill, House Bill 74, that contains language that explicitly prohibits multi-state consortia that receive funds under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 from seeking contracts. In English, that prohibits the state from negotiating with Park. So there is pages and pages of amendments both ways to increase the relationship, to decrease the relationship, to freeze the relationship with the testing agencies, to bring in more testing, less testing. I wouldn't pretend to give you a summary, but I just found that to be a little bit entertaining, that all the trouble they went to, because they couldn't say Park in the resolution.
Right.
That would be not good form. And just as a personal note, colleagues, I got a call Monday, as a result of legislative work in Columbus, asking if I would come to Columbus Wednesday last and testify before the Constitutional Modernization Commission. This is the commission that's looking to change the Constitution or recommend changes for the populace to do. It's the kind of thing we adopted a position 6 months or a year ago, asking for the thorough and efficient clause in school funding to continue to stay in. So that's the commission that's doing this. As it turned out, it was more important to stay here because that's the day we were honoring some of our top scholars. But one of the side effects of being engaged is that you get invited to other opportunities. In this case, it was really short views, and I couldn't go. But colleagues, I do want to bring your attention to another potential law. It's currently House Bill 70, and this has to do with learning centers, community learning centers, and this is being sponsored by Representative Driehaus from local, and it's more to keep it in the public eye and bring about attention and so forth. So it's permissive legislation if passed. And the Community Learning Center is based upon the models, the 35 or so models in Cincinnati Public that provide various wraparound services to help meet the needs of children, both academic and social needs. Such services include mental health counseling, eye care, dental services, after-school programming, and early childhood education, just to name a few. So the reason I bring it up is that I've been mentioning it from time to time, and I realized the last time we took a tour to see a community learning center was a previous board makeup. And this community needs some form of community learning center to respond to the societal and economic issues our kids bring.
Yes.
And part of us coming to consensus means that we have to agree that it's needed. And there's some resistance in the community that doesn't see or doesn't believe that the rampant rate of poverty is real, that our children are experiencing. So I bring it up tonight only to say sometime this fall, after school starts this fall, let's set up another day, go look-see. There's 35 different places and there are 35 different models right here within driving distance. I didn't understand the benefit. I didn't understand it until I physically went and saw two, and I became an advocate. And I believe you will, colleagues, become an advocate for the betterment of our students' preparation. Madam Chairman, that concludes my legislative report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Pennicuick. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Cleary regarding the Great Oaks report. Mr. Cleary, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. Be a relatively short report. Mr. Smith had invited me out to the Oaks for a luncheon with our students. And our students talked about what it was they were looking to do in terms of career, and after that, I haven't even told Mr. Smith, but after that I went through and spoke with the executive director over there because I was curious, because our initiative is that, you know, ensure all students achieve their highest potential. So back to that thing where I say, show me the evidence, show me the data, so I don't get emotional when it's not this, you know, 2-minute soundbite. So I had asked of the students that we met with, how many of them made National Honor Society? And in career tech, it's that they have the same type of requirements, but it's not the same as what we have here. You know, our National Honor Society is not the same there. There, it's the National Honor Society. It's the National Career Technical Honor Society, and we had 7 students that made that. Kira Cunningham, she's a senior. She's graduating in surgical technology. Skylar Day, senior, veterinary assisting. Elijah Gill, veterinary assisting. Tyler Ham, commercial and residential electricity. He's somebody I'd actually like to hire. Ashley Nightingale, health technology. Sequoia Washington, dental assisting. And Michaela Sundin, veterinary assisting. When Mr. Smith and I, when we met with all the students, not just these, all talked about higher education and that they weren't going to end here. Well, they might have their certificate to work in healthcare. They wanted more than that. They wanted to go get some additional licensure. They wanted to continue their education. So, Mr. Smith, I was looking for the evidence that we're ensuring all students achieve their highest potential. And I think that there's some evidence there that, you know, those that are truly engaged have the opportunity, even in the Oak system, just like here in Winton Woods. So with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Cleary. Okay, are there any board motions or recommendations this evening? Seeing none, we'll just move to the comments from members of the board. Mrs. Burns, we'll start with you, Madam Vice President.
I have one comment, and it's really a thank you to Mr. Smith and to Mrs. Denny and those who worked on the community engagement, especially the quality with which the commercials that were created that we witnessed during the State of the Schools address and some of the other things that have gone out into the community. The quality has, I think, been outstanding. And some of the information was news to some, maybe not to all. And there's clearly some work to be done to make sure that everyone in the community gets all of the information in a timely enough fashion. I recognize that there's a challenge with multiple methods of communication. We can reach parents in one way, we have to reach community members in another way. Some have emails, some don't. So there's some challenges to that respect. But there is a concerted group of people who are dedicated to do that work, and I don't think it's easy. And they face it, I think, with a smile. Even all of the challenges that I know about, and I'm sure there's some that never make it to my ears. And so I just want to extend a thank you for the work that you do. It can sometimes be thankless and go unnoticed and unrecognized, and so I want to say publicly thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Mr. Cleary?
Board and community, specifically the Forest Parks Women's Club, you know, this past week they put all their ribbons up there on Winton Road. And I was just curious. I went back to the Winton Woods historian to find out how long have they been doing that. They have put those ribbons up every single year for the same week for 21 years. That group of women have volunteered to do that. So if by chance, and when out there in the community, if you believe that's of value, please contact them, because they may not want to do that forever. And it's kind of become institutional to our community. The community expects those ribbons up the same week, every year. And it's a great way to really applaud our students and their success. So thank you to the Women's Parks Forest Club, Forest Park Women's Club.
Third time's a charm.
Yes. Board, this is kind of an unusual comment, but this past year it's become apparent to me, and I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, it may be interpreted that way, but I got invited to a bunch of our graduating students that had graduated from here, went off to college. They invited me to their college graduations. Wow. And I was pretty astonished. You know, I started, so what I did was I started writing down what some of them are doing. And these were our students that graduated from Winton Woods, and they were on the 4-year to 6-year plan. So some of them had the longer plan. And I won't give their names, but we got a pharmacist, and he works for Kroger's. We've got a doctor, we've got a lawyer, we've got an entertainer, we've got a welder, we've got an architect, someone in the clergy, a couple electricians, 2 engineers. That's just to name a few. Wow. But I know that, you know, it's because we had teachers in our district and programs in our district that were very broad in spectrum, that exposed our students to a lot of everything, that they were able to choose some of these things. So with that, thank you to the staff again, and congratulations to all the families that have graduating seniors, and hopefully they find their career paths, and they can be successful in what they want to do in their next chapter of their life.
Thank you, Mr. Cleary. Dr. Johnson?
Well, as I sat here and thought I wouldn't say anything, but I just want to say congratulations to the seniors that are coming up to graduate. Just reminded of something that my mother used to say, that you can't go back and change the past, but from here forward you can change your future. So I'm just reminded that she always would say, start strong and finish strong. So for those of you who have started strong and you're finishing up, congratulations. For those of you who might have more work to do, keep working. It's worth it. I'm part of the Great Oaks Gateway to Success program, and we had one Winton Woods graduate this past ceremony. And sometimes people don't, those people are marginalized and they're discounted, but I don't think we have any throwaway kids. I mean, and some of them aren't even kids, some of them are adults. You know, they come back and maybe for one reason or the other they dropped out, you know, with only 2 credits left. Maybe they just got disenfranchised, whatever happened, they didn't finish. But I've gone so far to 6 graduations, and I've got 2 more to go to, Winton Woods and Fairfields. But I tell you what, as an educator, there's no greater joy. I don't get tired of going. I just don't get tired of growing. Because when I go, I know that they're growing. They're moving forward to the next phase. Some of the students that I watched graduate with their high school diplomas from the Gateway to Success program through Great Oaks, there were 10 high schools that were represented there, and Winton Woods was one of them. But it's just no greater joy. It just absolutely is no greater joy for me to watch them and to be able to cheer them on. So just congratulations to the students of Winton Woods that are graduating on the 21st, and I look forward to cheering you across the stage. One more graduation.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Mr. Pennicott?
Thank you, Madam President. Tim, I'd like to put 2 names. You were complimenting the community for the ribbons. And it is my understanding that Rogie Volmer and Betty Dunn are the spearheads behind that. So if you see, I know they have done it for the full 21 years, and I think it's them that organize it, get a few donations, not nearly enough donations, hint, hint. But if the ribbons were not to go up, our graduating seniors would be saying, what happened?
Where are they
What
at?"
happened? I expected, I want to go find the ribbon with my name on it right after, I guess, Friday morning, right the day after graduation. So thanks to Rogie and the J&R coordinating company and Betty Dunn. Board, if I may, I'd like to do something a little different. This is a meeting of the school board. This is not a meeting of the levy campaign. But there were people here in the audience tonight that have never heard that difference described. It was all I could do not to jump off and go to the young man who spoke a minute ago who has kids upcoming and say, can we have your name and address? We need you in the next campaign. So the role of the board is to decide whether to put an issue on and when and how much. It's the role of the community to run the campaign. In fact, we are barred by law wearing our board member hat from doing that. To participate, we step out of that role and come as equal partners of people in the community. So I want to say two things. The people in this room, as I look at who is left, you were incredible. The amount of time and treasure and thoughtfulness you gave made it a campaign. Not enough of a campaign, clearly, but without you, it wouldn't have been. So our task, whenever this body turns to this body, whether it's November or 2016 or whenever, we have to find more people who have more at stake and bring their creativity, whether it's ringing doorbells or stuffing envelopes. The people who worked, it's just amazing. The friendships that are made or strengthened in those efforts, I cherish. I hate losing. I hate losing on behalf of the kids. I do not want to be the one looking a child in the eye 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and saying, I'm sorry you don't have the science lab you need. I'm sorry you don't have access to the floor that you need, because people way back in 2015 thought it was either or. It was academics or buildings, and it's not, it's both. Yes, they are supportive of each other, and we collectively, putting on my SEPSI hat just for a second, Board, we need to find a way to do it that gets to more people, gets the right message to more people. We have to do that. That's our number, and now putting my board member hat back on, our number one job as board members is to secure the funding for the district. Secondarily, it's to find two good leaders and hire them and give them the right responsibilities and freedom to act. So I regret I should have pitched my pitch right after your remarks, Tim, earlier in the evening. I should have remembered that some of the folks that will hear don't have the stamina to stay through all of our business. But pass on the word and pass on the thanks from these members of the community who just happen to be board members, from those members of the community who brought so much to the party. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Pennycuff. Most of what I was going to say this evening has already been taken, but I will piggyback on what you just spoke of, Mr. Pennycuff, because there is absolutely no evidence that new buildings and increased academic scores and betterments for our children cannot be completed at the same time. This is not an either-or option, and I just want to make that clear that when the board voted to put this on the ballot 2 times, it is because we all had that belief, or most all of us had that belief, that both things can happen at the same time. And I'm very, very confident that they will. I also want to congratulate all of our seniors, as most all board members have said this evening. You've all worked very hard to graduate, and now it's 3 days until graduation. So congratulations to the graduates and the families, and we'll see you in 3 days. Mr. Superintendent, anything from you, sir?
Yes, Madam President and board community, we attended the honors recognition celebration in the auditorium. First of all, the auditorium should be at capacity. It should have been standing room only, celebrating with kids who have achieved incredible honors, like perfect attendance, like a 36 on the science part of the ACT. Those are celebrations that are real. Second, for all of the young people who decided to join the armed services, that was absolutely incredible. The young people wanting to be part of the National Guard and the Air Force and the Army. I felt just proud that these young people have made some decisions about protecting our trust, protecting our dignity in society. There was something, I had the pleasure of attending the Forest Park luncheon, and I'm not sure how many of you, I am shifting gears way down the road, Madam President, so stay with me for a minute. But I was just so impressed with the Honor Flight Tri-State, this national opportunity where veterans get to fly to see the war memorials in D.C. Cincinnati, at least in this region, will be the first region that will do this for female veterans. This is the first attempt. And they will be accompanied by younger female retired veterans. I just felt very obligated to mention that because those young people that walked across our stage and the ones that have been part of our future that have joined the armed forces will be part of that celebration one day. We talk about college, we talk about the world of work, but I think sometimes we forget the veterans. And with this great auspicious occasion to have the first female group fly to DC, I think that's going to be awesome, and it hits our region first. Not sure if you guys knew about it, but I wanted to make sure that we touched on that a little bit. I was proud at the luncheon. I was proud at the senior recognition ceremony. But every one of the young people that stood up to shake the principal's hand to say that I'm going to protect and serve our country, I just felt that it was just an honorable moment. So thank you, Madam President and Board.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Seymour, anything from you, sir?
No.
Okay. All right, Mr. Lanier, we have a representative in the audience from the Winton Woods Teachers Association. Mr. Lanier, if you would like to speak this evening, we welcome you to the podium.
I appreciate that. And I'm impressed time-wise. Wow, I was guessing 9:30 was when my
3 minutes.
Start. That doesn't mean anything. Thank you. I thought, and first of all, before I do begin, thank you so much, board members, over the years for helping out in my class, and I hope that will continue well into the future, and to bring in more of you into that fold. Tonight I wanted to start out with one of with a quote from one of my favorite historical figures, the Lion, Frederick Douglass. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Something I greatly believe in, and words I think we all can live by. As I've said many times this year, we may not all agree on the path that we need to get to where we need to be, but I do believe that the people in this room are working towards what is behind Madam President there, and that is to ensure that all students achieve at their highest potential. And I think as long as we all keep that in mind, there is great progress to be made. So, over the last 2 months, so much has happened in our district with the bond, finishing up the school year, and now heading into 2015, 2016, we must face together the continued task to improve, something that we as a union and as the Winton Woods Teachers Association president, something that we look forward to supporting wholeheartedly. And we ask that we are a vital part of that improvement process as we work together to next year. Now, the question is, what are some of the tools that we will use to improve? And I think in light of some of the things that have happened in our district in the last month and a half, and at the state level, we have some interesting choices to make as far as what improvement tools that we will continue to use. And we have some very exciting ones that I would like to talk about, but because of time, I'm just going to talk about one this evening. And this is based, where I'm getting this model, it's based on two things. Number one, new tech. Thanks for training us, teachers. We appreciate it very much. And also on the Ohio Standards of Professional Development that recently came out. Have you, I made copies if you hadn't had a chance to see, and they're released on May 12th on the state ODE website. Would anybody like one? Okay, Mr. Smith, if you don't mind taking one and passing it down. And there's some extra copies because I'm sure there's, I know there's other administrators also. Some of the things I'd like to take from the Ohio Standards of Professional Development that really got me excited when I read through this. And I know you're like, well, you actually read through those 10 pages and you got excited by them? Well, yes. If you can't get excited about improvement, I think you're in the wrong business, honestly. I mean, this is a constant process. And if you're stagnant, there's no such thing. You're just going to get worse. So, starting off with the introduction, I'm just going to read 4 things from it that I think we can use. It starts out, all of Ohio's educators and parents share the same goal, something Mr. Smith has talked about many times, that Ohio students learn at the highest levels possible and be prepared for the demands of the future. Something I think that resonates with all of us. Another line from later on in the report, to be effective in increasing educator effectiveness and student learning, a system of professional learning must occur within a collaborative culture in which we all share collective responsibility for continuous improvement. I love that. Collaboration. Going back to one of Dr. Holden's big things that she taught us. Simply adopting these standards does not ensure success. And this is so true. Just, saying, hey, we approve it. Instead, effective school systems must commit to them creating a culture of inquiry where we're not afraid to ask questions of what we need to do next, in which we all feel a shared responsibility and a commitment to continuous improvement. Rather, the standards and other resources from the ODE and Learning Forward are resources districts should use as they work together in small groups. It might sound familiar to some people. To develop effective systems and processes that meet their needs. And see, after this, if you haven't read it yet, you don't have to read the whole thing. It's just the highlights. And then standard 1 is really where I think that the board, Mr. Smith and his administrative team, and us as a union of teachers should really collaborate and work together on, and I think we could make some serious progress. Continue, because we've done so much this year already, but continue to make that kind of progress. Standard 1, learning communities. Professional learning that increases educator effectiveness and results for all students occur within learning communities committed to continuous improvement, collective responsibility, and goal alignment. Something, small groups, creating discussion groups. How can we do this? Well, interestingly enough, as the high school next year is going to all school new tech, and Asia Society still around, but And at the middle school level, project-based learning, Asia Society, we have a great tool that we use in New Tech called Critical Friends, which I really think that we need to, that I and my fellow union members really believe in as far as something that could help us out going into the future. At the end of each school year, as a teacher and as New Tech teachers, what we talk about are how we can get better and try and create that cycle of continuous improvement within our own culture. And from what we saw last night at the AGS Awards, I mean, so many kids scoring a 30-something on the ACT. Just a wonderful, wonderful experience. I mean, if we just avoid catching our hair on fire from the paper balloons, but besides that fun part, so much. So, a week ago, I asked my fellow teachers to submit some likes and wonders. In other words, positives and concerns for our district moving forward. Now, what I'm going to read to you is obviously just a shortened list, over 50 of each. And I asked each teacher to give me one or two between now and, well, last Monday. So, we'll start out with some of the likes, and none of these that I'm about to read come from me. I was encouraged to use my fellow teachers. These are all fellow union members' comments. And the ones I chose were comments that almost all these comments came from multiple people, multiple teachers, in other words. Let me ask you this. As educators and as a board, what is the best way to know what is happening at the district level? Well, you have primary sources, right? And you have secondary sources. As a union, we offer a primary source. We have one of the most educated workforces in the world. Please take advantage of us. Students are obviously the other primary source. And we already do a great job with administrator and parent input. So we would like to continue and be a part of that equation. So first of all, likes. I like the fact that our district recognizes Chinese as an important language and emphasizes languages for students to take. I like that our school board and faculty are trying to build stronger bridges of communication and attempting to align our goals together. I like our district's commitment to fine arts. The signs across the district are a very nice thing. I like the academic freedom to explore innovation in the classroom. I like the student exploration and choice in AGS and other project-based learning. I like that the resident educator program has improved this year. I like that our district provides the opportunity for students who want to go the extra mile to take rigorous courses, along with travel opportunities. The push there for AP classes and travel has been tremendous. I like that our district provides support for ESL students and families. I like the fact that our students feel emotionally safe in our buildings. I like that much of our district will be going to MAP testing next year. I like that our district invests a lot in teacher development. We really do appreciate that. That means a lot, and we're continuing to do so. I like the fact that our students feel, well, let's go on to another one there. I like that we have so many administrators that believe in doing what is best for our kids. And then I like the unity and support among the teaching staff. All right. Next, moving on to wonders. And as I do this, what we would like to do, what we would really like to do moving forward, is we would love to have a session as a union with you in a closed session where we could share more openly and we could make some real progress. Obviously, these things are, I'm not going to bring all of them and all that here. We're trying to move forward as a district. So wonders. I wonder how we can improve communication across the district regarding policies, safety, implementation of new teaching techniques with the ever-changing technology. Number 2, I wonder how we can get community members and parents more involved with our schools, as we have great support for both the music program and AGS. 3, I wonder how we can bring greater unity between the teaching staff and district leadership. And 4, I wonder if less students and teachers at my ES building would be absent if we had healthier buildings. Something, sorry, John had to mention the building thing there. A lot of people commenting on that. I wonder if it would improve student performance if we dedicated more money on our libraries and teachers and less on coaches. 6, I wonder if no matter how good of a teacher I am on official OTES evaluations and SLO scores, if I disagree with administrative decision, will my opinion be held against me? 7, I wonder how our district plans to improve teacher retention, as you guys talked about, thank you, earlier, appreciate that. And then I wonder how our academics could improve if we would be allowed and encouraged as a teaching staff to have more input on district decisions. Thank you so much for listening, board. We invite you as board members and administrators to join us in continuing this process in 2015, 2016. As without struggle, there is no progress. And some of these questions that we need to answer are not easy. But if we're going to truly build a culture of inquiry, and I ask that as board members and as administrators, what I have done here tonight, I ask that it be reflected back to the union and what we could do. I truly do. Because everyone here needs to take steps forward. And we are very excited to do so as we head into the future. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's have a great year next year.
Thank you, Mr. Lanier. Do we have a representative from OPSI? No. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Okay, board, there is a need for an executive session this evening to discuss certain personnel matters, so a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I move that we go into executive session of matters involving employment, appointment, or termination of employment.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Mr. Seymour, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicott?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Folks, we now move into our executive session, so if you would please excuse us, we thank you very much for your attendance this evening.